Okay, we're back. We're live. We're Think Tech Talks. It's the next best thing with Attila Ceres, who I'm standing in for him while he's stuck in traffic. We'll have to have some traffic shows now.
Hey.
I have a very good rant about traffic if you care to look at OC16. Anyway, that's Holly Lindsay, Dr. Holly Lindsay, if you don't mind. And she's a science fair team mentor. That's her favorite thing in the world, I think. Huh?
I think so. It's my pro bono work. I think it's very rewarding. I'm always energized every year. Every year I say it's time to retire, but then when I see the kids at science fair, I have to think, this is what life is really about. The joy of seeing them so excited about the new project that they're going to do, what they're going to share with the community, how they're going to improve the world. And I'm really heartened every time I am involved with science fair, especially with the judging, that I underestimate our community. I really do, and I apologize for that, because after this past Saturday at the HAWAIIan District Science and Engineering Fair held at Iolani School, I was just so enthralled with the passion of the judges. And that normally doesn't happen to me. Usually I'm sort of worried about what's going to happen, what the results are going to be. Are we all going to get along in the back room? Are we going to start arguing and throwing tomatoes at each other? But this was...
It does happen, by the way.
It does.
It does happen.
Always happens that people feel very passionately, which they should. It's just that we're not always so cordial. Everybody has their agenda. But this time it was such a pleasure to work with these middle school judges at HAWAIIan. I was really so pleasantly surprised and had a great time. I really did, meeting so many people in our community who are givers.
So, you know, science fair is happening. It's kind of a pyramid. We'll talk about that. And Think Tech is covering it. I mean, we went last weekend to cover the highest. That's the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools science fair, which took place at Iolani. And you know, we follow it from year to year. We'll go back in April too, and we'll cover it then again.
To the main one at the state.
Yeah, I'd like to go to the mainland too and follow it. But you know, this is a phenomenon. It's more than some educational thing. It's more than an extension of STEM. It's way beyond STEM. It is the most wonderful thing for kids. That's why she's so excited about it. If you just see them do their thing, you will be so impressed. It will touch you in your heart. And it will give you new confidence in the state and the possibility of the state to raise a new millennial generation of science-loving kids, you know, who want to be here and do their thing. You love them all. You do love them all. So my movie that I made is going to play on OC16, 10:30 on Sunday, this Sunday, and then for 7 times thereafter on OC16. And it shows what was happening at Iolani. But Iolani was only one of 2 science fairs that are taking place here in the district of Honolulu, right?
Oh, no, actually in the Honolulu area, we not only have the HAIS and the Honolulu, but we also have Central, which is in Mililani. We have Leeward, we have Windward. We have 9 district fairs.
Only here in Honolulu.
In fact, right now as we speak, Sarah Tomoyose, who's the director of HSSEF Science Fairs, she's in West Hawaii, in Kona. They're having the science fair.
It's all over the state, and it goes like a pyramid. Good luck, everybody. And you win. You know, you get the judges pick you. You win, and you work your way up from one level to another, and then you win in the state fair, which a lot of kids are invested in the state fair, and then maybe you go to the mainland and win nationally. Who knows?
Hopefully,
the thing about the science fair that drives the whole thing is that it gives these kids confidence when they don't necessarily have confidence. It makes them believe that they are capable of doing remarkable things. And this often changes their lives.
Yes.
And that is the miracle of the science fair. Anyway, tell us about the pyramid. How does the pyramid work in the state and beyond?
Well, generally, it starts off with the schools, and the schools will have their own science fair. Sometimes it's a required thing in science class that they make a project and they present the project for their peers, and then it's graded by the school administrators or the teachers. And then from there, they will hopefully take the cream of the cream and it'll go to the district fair. And at the district fair, they have a conglomeration of schools for HAIS. Obviously, that's for the independent schools, and they come from all over Oahu and compete there. And unfortunately, not everybody can make it to the next level, which is a state level. And but we probably took about, well, it's about as hard as getting into Harvard now, the percentage that makes it from the district fair to...
So much competition.
There is a lot more competition, which I'm really glad to see. Some years there isn't that much competition, but this year we had 213 just the junior projects, which are grades 6, 7, and 8 at the HAIS district fair, and we had 42 senior projects, so that's grades 9 through 12. So that's, HAIS is the largest district fair of the 9.
Then now tell us how it gets up to, and you have the junior projects and the senior project. Tell us what that is and how the winners are selected to get up to the state science fair.
Well, in the senior projects, of course, they're probably a lot more sophisticated generally, and
well, they're older by
they're
a few
older,
years.
so they've had a lot more experience. A lot of those senior entries had been entering sixth grade, so they have this whole background with them. And so after they have qualified from their school and then go to districts and qualify for states, then at states they usually sort of change their projects around, make it even more sophisticated. If they're lucky, if they're the top 2 winners at the district fairs, they get an automatic berth. That means they get a whole paid free trip from the Hawaii Academy of Science to compete at the International Science and Engineering Fair. It's run by the Intel Corporation. And this year,
where is that?
It's a rotating fair, but this year it's going to be held in Los Angeles. Sometimes it's held in Pittsburgh and also in Phoenix. But it's not only national entries, it's from all over the world. You'll have many different countries competing. And so it's a real biggie of the science fairs, and it's very exciting to see. I had a team 2 years ago. We're fortunate enough to win second prize at the HAIS district fair, and they went to ISEF, and they said it was a mind-boggling, life-changing experience for them. So I was really proud of them. ISEF is International Science and Engineering Fair.
Now that's distinguishable from the Ritsumeikan Super Science Fair in Kyoto.
Yes.
What is the Ritsumeikan Fair, and how does that operate, and why is it not the same?
Okay, well, the Ritsumeikan Fair that we talk about at Iolani is just a team of 5 students that we choose, especially chosen from Iolani after a very rigorous application process. But they go not to compete in Japan, they go for a sharing. There's about 42 countries that are invited by the Japanese government, and they go to Kyoto to the Ritsumeikan School, and they present for each other. They have a great time. It's a whole week of science events, but they have come prepared with their own presentation. So it's like a science fair except without the competition. And that's the one I prefer, actually. Nobody's disappointed. Everybody just is there to share. And you know what? There's teams from places you would not normally, our kids would not normally get to meet, from Iran, from Russia, from Singapore, Hong Kong, everywhere.
So it's a citizen diplomat thing.
It is.
These kids are meeting like-kind kids from all over the world. That's a treat.
Yeah. And you know what my husband always takes the team. I'm not a traveler anymore. I've sort of like this homebody, but he takes the team, and what I think they really enjoy is the cultural exchange. They also have to do a cultural sharing.
Oh, sure. Like the music they did?
They did the music for you,
time,
right?
yeah.
You did a show a couple of weeks ago, and they all sang some pop songs, and Over the Rainbow is his style. So they had a great time. That was my first team, actually, by the way, that could actually sing. So
You love this stuff, I know
I'm
you do.
so happy they could sing. But in the past, they've tried to do hula, and a lot of these kids have never done it before. So to do it for this huge, vast audience in Japan, and some of those Japanese students are really good at hula, you know, it was quite an accomplishment for them. But everybody does it with you know, sort of tongue-in-cheek. They have a great time, and some of the groups are amazing. You know, they do their cultural dances.
So ideally, a kid would go to both. I mean, if you had your druthers, you would want to go to as many science fairs as you can.
In fact, I don't know if I should mention this, but my son is on this year, finally is of age. He could go to the Ritz-Mekon, and he was chosen, luckily. And then he also won the first prize at the HAIS district fair.
You didn't encourage him in either capacity then?
No.
He just did that by himself.
He's
a driven young man.
I don't know. Well, I drive him to all his events, but I don't know if he's that driven.
Well, let's talk about the projects. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. It was
Congratulations to him. Christopher Lindsay.
Yeah, Christopher,
So I just want to get a handle on what it is a science fair project, where the idea comes from, how nascent it is, how long it lasts.
Well, I've seen...
And how intense...
I think I've almost seen it all, but every year I'm a little surprised. But, it can be something as simple as...
Holly was the chief judge of the junior projects.
Yeah, so there was no conflict of interest with my son. He was on the senior side. I didn't even see him. In fact, he totally missed the awards ceremony. He fell asleep and didn't even go. But anyway, I've seen the whole gamut of subjects, I think. It can be something as simple as, why does my dog not tell me when I'm in pain? Or it could be, what do I do with the dishwashing liquid that goes down the drain? Or will I be smarter if I listen to Mozart as opposed to red-eyed peas, or what is it?
Will I do better in the high school sports if I drink caffeine?
That's right. That's the one. That boy chased me all over saying, "Can I be on Mr. Fidel's show?"
He was really cute.
He was cute. Yeah, he was. I see Attila waiting in the wings there. Okay.
Well, this is Jay Fidel standing in for Attila Ceres. I try to make his life easy, and sometimes he makes my life easy, but not as often. And we're here at Think Tech Talks. We're talking with Holly Lindsay. She's a mentor in the science fair, and she's the chief judge, or she was the chief judge, in the highest, that stands for the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools district fair, which took place last week for the juniors. That is the middle school juniors.
And we also had the seniors in another building in the Sullivan Center.
And she could probably keep us busy on this subject.
Hey, I could talk about it for a long time. I didn't talk to you about the sophisticated subjects.
No, but you'll talk to Attila. Because we'll take a short break, we're going to switch out, and then you get back to the guy you really like, Attila Ceres, the host of Next Big Thing, right here on Think Tech. Castle and Cooke, Hawaii. Investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Collateral Analytics. Empowering the real estate industry to make better informed property investment decisions. The Foreign Trade Zone, bringing the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone programs to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. GALEN Ho, a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island. The Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, incorporating diverse perspectives to design a flexible and forward-looking energy strategy. Hawaii Energy, the state's energy and efficiency program created to help Hawaii's residents and businesses adopt a clean energy lifestyle. Hawaii Gas, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Hawaii Pacific Health, bringing technology and teamwork together to transform healthcare in Hawaii. The High Tech Development Corporation, attached to DBED, is the state's leading technology agency. The SHIDLER Family Foundation, supporting educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including Think Tech.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the Think Tech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
We're back, we're live, and you're watching Think Tech. I'm your host, Attila Ceres. Our show, Next Big Thing, is a place for people with great ideas to to share them with the world. And with us today is Dr. Holly Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us in the show, and I appreciate Jay for filling in while I was sitting in traffic. You know,
My pleasure.
before we got on the air, we were talking about some alternatives to maybe fixing this traffic issue, because as you know, we have the worst traffic in the country, right?
Well,
we also have the
that's
best weather, though, so it's a good
That's true.
trade-off.
There's always walking, there's always biking, and if you can't do it, I guess you just have to sort of have that leeway of time.
Pedestrians get hit all the time. Every year at least I hear about someone.
We have the highest amount of pedestrian deaths.
Really?
Yes, I just read that. So.
Oh, in the whole country?
Yes.
So highest number of pedestrian deaths, and if you add a bicycle to that, that's going to go up.
That's right.
So that's not a good
But
alternative.
as I was just saying, I think it would be a great science fair project for somebody to work on alleviating the problems. In fact, I had a team. Let's see, they were 3rd and 4th graders, I think, at that time. It was a robotics Lego team, and the question was transportation that year. They have a question that they tackle nationally all year, and they visited the buses. They visited different ways of transportation. They looked at alternative ways of transportation, and it was really interesting. I think they could figure out a lot of things. And at that time, they didn't have those QR codes on the phone, and this was way before this is how old I am. And so they thought, we can make actually what they called a SMAP, a smart application, telling drivers, which would be the best route to go. And now they actually have it. It's come true. So a long time ago, this little team of 3rd and 4th graders thought of this, because they had the application from one of the children was from Japan. So she shared that and said, this is what the wave of the future is going to be. And sure enough, when we went to visit the director of transportation, both for the state and city and county, who were Iolani alums, by the way, at the time, they said, yeah, this is a great idea. This is what we're thinking of doing. So, kids can think way beyond you and I.
But isn't that the point, is that all good ideas should be at least understandable to an 8-year-old?
Oh yeah,
right?
I think, and the sky's the limit. They don't have our limitations like this is not going to work because of this or this or that. They can dream. So that's what I think is so inspiring for the rest of us. And as we were just driving here, you from Kapolei, I guess, and I from Kaimakee, how many potholes did you pass?
In Pearl City, I came from Pearl Ridge Mall,
Oh, okay.
so it wasn't, but it took an hour and 10 minutes. And what is that, 10 miles?
Yeah,
If that, maybe?
Yeah. But, I was thinking,
Kaimuki, same thing.
can a student work on some kind of liquid substance that you can pour in the pothole, it can harden immediately, you can drive over it so you don't destroy your car, at least until the pothole can become, fixed permanently. That'd be a great science project too. Giving you an idea for free.
Wow. Is there any other way to alleviate the traffic? Because there's still just a lot of cars on the road.
Well, they're now proposed the rail. I don't know if you're going to use the rail, but I won't. I live in the opposite direction. But, I think...
I have a solution for you.
Oh,
I've seen it. It's called the Lit Motors. They just got their 2nd round of VC funding up in Northern California. And they have it looks like a motorcycle. So, you would love to ride a motorcycle, I bet, but you're afraid of getting hit by a car, or what if the thing tips over?
I used to ride a motorcycle.
You used to? Okay.
Yeah, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I would not, they have even more potholes than we do. It's very dangerous to ride a motorcycle when there are potholes.
Well, what these guys came up with, they came up with the motorcycle, and then in the middle is this gyroscopic mechanism that keeps it level. And then, so they encased it in a cage. And then the passenger can sit here and get air conditioning and all the modern conveniences. And in a lane of traffic, 2 of them can fit in there because they're technically considered motorcycles. So rather than, I guess they'd probably collide if they're trying to avoid potholes in the middle of it, but at least you could double up the number of drivers on the road.
Is it solar powered or battery powered?
It's electric, yeah.
Electric, it's all electric.
So
that
it's an
sounds good to
all-electric
me.
one, yeah. 200-mile range, something like that.
I was looking for a new car. I went to drive the Prius, and I liked everything about it except the price tag.
Well,
so, yeah.
The Leaf is
coming.
good too, but the high
That's right.
depreciation, that's the...
Yeah, and the fact that my friends who do have it, they are worried always about running out. So, But I notice a lot more stations that you can just recharge for free. So I think that's the way we're all headed, I hope.
Well, we're looking at 35 cents a kilowatt here. National average is 12.
Yeah.
And we actually had a leaf guy on here a few weeks ago.
Oh, great.
And so we went through all kind of the details. And, you know, some people can drive them for very little. But,
Well, a lot of places it's just free of charge to recharge. So just make sure that you're timing yourself and can go get the free charge.
well, those places are fewer and far between, unfortunately. We paid for them as tax dollars, but
well, I did have a team that was working. We went to visit the biofuel plant. That was very interesting. You know, they collect all the oil waste a lot from the cafeterias and the schools and from McDonald's and things like that, and then they process the vegetable waste and they turn it into biofuel. And there is one station that sells the biofuel here, but. And I think now all our sanitation trucks are run by biofuels. At least that's what they told us on our field trip. So, you know, you can learn great things when you're around kids.
All right, well, let's get back to what we were talking about. I think we got off track, and you know that's
too much to talk about. In
there's
science,
a lot,
right?
yes. So let's talk about the science fair, and we had some pictures we wanted to go through.
Okay.
You had some pictures of the show, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you see there on the screen?
Okay, this is a picture taken last Saturday at the Sullivan Center at Iolani School, and the Sullivan Center is a center for innovation and learning that was just completed earlier this last year, in the fall of last year, and Iolani was gracious enough to donate this space, and it was wonderful because usually we're in a non-air conditioned environment for about 9 hours dying in the heat. But this year we had the luxury resort of science fair locations, and these are two pictures. The next picture too will be of the senior division, and these are the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders who entered from the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. And it was really wonderfully organized by the director, Pauline Higa, and the chief judge for the senior projects was Dr. Song Choi, who you may know from the School of Engineering at University of Hawaii, and he turned out to be a most marvelous judge. He handled it very, very professionally, and I was really, really astounded at the number of very qualified judges that we had at the fair, both for the senior division as well as the junior division. Usually it's sort of, you know, we would look at the draw, but this year we had a lot of specialists. There were 17 different categories of science, things like physics and astronomy, or engineering, or animal sciences, plant sciences, things like that. And we had specialists, and each child had a minimum of 2 judges, and some of them had as many as 5 judges, so that was great.
Now, what were some of the memorable science fair projects?
Well, for the junior projects, I think one that I was taken by, loving astronomy as I do, was one of the students, and Jay was there, made his own telescope. And it reminded me of my own son at the same age trying to make his own telescope and finally giving up and actually saving money to buy one. But it was he was a very engaging young man. And there was another girl who, her title of her project came in and it said, Undecided. And I looked at this the night before science fair and I said, Undecided? She can't be undecided. The fair is tomorrow. I'm panicking for this girl and I don't even know. And she ended up with the title, and she actually won first prize in the junior division. I think if she had gone in with the title of undecided, she wouldn't have. But it's always interesting what happens. You know, the students have.
What was that?
It's a project. I think hers was on the temperature, So that was interesting. And in the senior projects, I didn't really get to see too many because I was with the junior side, but I know there were a lot of medical ones to do with research in the medical field, and the top winner I know only because I'm related to him. His was on discovering an exoplanet. So he actually helped the European Space Agency with their research and finding an extrasolar planet, which is a planet that revolves about a star that's not our sun. So it's exciting days. I mean, 22 years ago, nobody had discovered an exoplanet, and suddenly it's available to kids who are only 14 years old.
And how are they discovering these planets?
Well, there's different methods. Direct observation is actually very difficult because of the glare. Usually when you're trying to look at it, you just see the glare of the star, and the exoplanet is too far away to actually see it, unless you have very sophisticated equipment, which we really don't yet, although it has been done. But usually what they do is they look for things like changes in the Doppler shift, or things like transiting, the differences in brightness of the star will change as something moves in front of it. So pretend you're the astronomer or the telescope, and here's the planet, and here's the sun. And the sun is shining on you, and the planet goes by. But the light changes because it's blocking you, the observer. And so they measure that, that change in brightness.
Do they also look at the gravitational wobble in the star
Yes,
as well?
yes, they can look at that, as well as just shifts in the light, the red or the blue shift intensity. So what's amazing in Hawaii is, you know, we have the top astronomers in the whole world in Hawaii.
Really?
Yes.
Where?
Because we have Mauna Kea, we have Haleakala. They're all working.
They're working at the astronomy.
Institute for Astronomy right here in Manoa, up the street in University of Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah, they're the top in the world, and they have kindly mentored many of these students. In fact, a lot of them are the science fair winners every year. So we're very fortunate that they will share their expertise with young hope-to-be scientists. And we have many people in the field who are specialists in their field and top in the world. For example, my team at Iolani that is going to be presenting in Kyoto in November with the at Ritsumeikan for the Japan Super Science Fair. They are mentored by Dr. Margot Edwards at SOAST. I understand you're going to be doing a show next week on SOAST, but she has been incredibly generous. She, along with Mr. Mark Ronstadt, who's an engineer, have helped this team, and what they're going to do is they have approval from the Pentagon to mentor a high school team and allow them to take a time-lapse camera to 500 meters underneath the surface. And that's no easy feat, 500 meters, because of the pressure involved. And they're going to, the U.S. Army ship will deploy their time-lapse camera, and they're going to actually study the munitions and what kind of biological interaction animals down there might have, or with chemical munitions.
And when is this happening? Next summer?
This is going to happen. Oh, I wish it was going to be next summer. It's going to be sooner than that. The ship is leaving. We just learned it March 29th. So they have less than a month. And so this morning I was just telling Jay, I've been really busy. The University of Hawaii is lending them these huge glass spheres. They were bigger than I thought, very heavy, but the glass spheres will hopefully house their time-lapse camera or the light system, because it's so dark down there at 500 meters, they're going to have to illuminate in order to take any pictures. And at Iolani, at the Sullivan Center, we're really very fortunate. They have state-of-the-art equipment now at Iolani School. They have a fabrication lab, so hopefully the fabrication lab workers will help the students actually design their own housing.
Well, I want to hear a little bit more about this, and we're going to talk more about the science fair when we get back, but we have to go to a break. So thanks you guys for tuning in. You're watching Think Tech. I'm your host, Attila Ceres, for Next Big Thing, here with Dr. Holly Lindsay, and we'll be right back after this break.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Horry for Think Tech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Horry. Mahalo.
We're back, we're live, and you're watching Next Big Thing. I'm your host, Attila Ceres. With us today is Dr. Holly Lindsay, and we're talking about science fairs. It's particularly in Hawaii, and what it takes to be successful at them, and how our students here are making a difference with proper mentorship and some of the advantages we have of being here in Hawaii. So thanks for sticking with us through the break.
My pleasure.
And now, wanted to talk a little bit more about maybe some of these graduates, because obviously every year we have students that come in and come out. And why don't you tell me a little bit about what that's like and some of their stories.
That's the rewarding thing. That's why I'm in this business, I guess. I would like to mention a couple of just outstanding scientists, young scientists. One is Nolan Kamataki, and he entered science fair, I believe, since 7th grade, and his father is presently his father was a businessman, but is now presently the president of Hawaii Academy of Science. But Nolan tried every year, and you know, he had his ups, he had his downs, but he just persevered because the science is what drove him. I think his first project was on arsenic levels on the Big Island. He comes from Hilo, and went to Waiakea High School. But presently, I believe that Nolan is graduating this year from Harvard University. Immediately, before he even went to Harvard, he was hired by Harvard Medical School, and he lived halfway between Harvard and Cambridge, where he took his courses, and the medical school, which is on the other side of the river. And he worked his whole time that he was at Harvard. He worked professionally, and I think he's just one of the Hawaii success stories. But you know, even when he didn't win that many prizes, he never gave up at science fair. He knew that this was his passion, and he did go to ISEF, and he won several prizes at ISEF also. So he was a big success story. More recently, I had a team of 3 young students from Iolani School. 2 of them just graduated last year, and now they're both at Olin School of Engineering in Massachusetts, and they're having a great time. They had no problems adjusting to life in college. They love their projects. I just heard about one that was last semester. They said they were making a project having a squirrel hop across. They made a mechanical squirrel, I guess, hopping across a table, and they were judged by a group of middle school students from a local school. So that was great. And the young lady on this team of 3, she's Erin Main. She graduated 2 years ago from Iolani, and she's right now at MIT in her, I guess, her junior year. So she's doing very well. And I know a young man, Stephen Okuda, who graduated last year, who was accepted to almost every top name school. I know he got a Regent Scholarship offer from University of Hawaii, one from University of Southern California, and he got into Princeton, he got into MIT, he got into many schools. He had his pick because he was involved with the Haleakala astronomy program through the Institute for Astronomy, and he was a top winner at the science fairs in Hawaii, and he, you know, it did him really good. And I'm hoping he'll come back and be an astronomer here at Mauna Kea or Haleakala one day.
Well, and that's the big question, right, is that we invest all this time and energy into educating these young kids, right, and giving them all the opportunities they need, and then all the offers come in, and they're all from the mainland, and they leave. Do they return?
I think many of them will eventually return because home is home, and as you get older, you don't have to worry about that, but as you get older, you return home, and that's where your heart is, right? And so I think I know many qualified people who have decided to give up the big salaries on the mainland and come back to Hawaii and can still practice what they are passionate about.
You're the example of that, right? Your story is...
Well, my story is my father passed away in 2001, and we decided to move back here, although my husband was not from Hawaii, he's from Colorado. And, you know, he used to be at the graduate school, college level. He taught at Harvard, University of Virginia, University of Louisville, and now he's teaching high school physics at Iolani School, and he's very happy. He says it's his best job. So I think it's attitude as well as who are you going to give to? Who are you going to give back to? Who can benefit from you? And I think the answer is everyone can benefit from you. It has to be in yourself that you have the spirit of wanting to share, wanting to mentor, and wanting to see that something that you invest in will grow. After all, we are not all going to survive forever. We're going to have to go one day. What is our legacy, Is it going to be wealth? You can't take it with you when you go. Is it going to be, you know, what you collect, your artwork you collect at home, maybe if you pass it on to future generations? But I think for most educators, we believe it's the next generation that we're helping to nurture.
So you live on through what you've taught.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think so. Shakespeare maybe lived on through the written word, but I think teachers have to live through what their students will hopefully accomplish. And I think when they come into close contact with somebody who loves to mentor, then they themselves will mentor. And I've seen it happen many times. A lot of the graduates come back and they try to help the next generation. In fact, in Christmas vacation, 2 of them came back and helped the team that's working on the time-lapse camera. They came back and used their Christmas vacation to help them. So they're starting young. And
well, so with this science fair, how does that time-lapse camera fit in? Is that a side project, or is that something that was spurred by the science fair?
Well, that came about because we had a previous team that started it, this idea. It was their idea to deploy with a ship and to see what they saw, what is living around the chemical munitions. And it was startling what they found. There was more life than you think.
What did they find?
They found this very strange sea star called a Brasingid. And it turns out that what they actually saw was never documented before. It was a new species of sea star. They didn't know it at that time. They just thought this was this thing with this orange little legs running around. And, you know, I didn't know. I always thought sea stars were sort of slow, but they actually do get around, those things, and they would be crawling all over the munition, and they would go in the front, go in the back, hide, and then come back, and it was really very fascinating. So this team, they couldn't really identify exactly what was going on. They sent samples to a scientist at the Smithsonian, Dr. Ma, and he actually responded back to them, was so excited, and he's still continuing with this project with Dr. Edwards at the University of Hawaii. He's counting on more samples because it's not easy to go down over 500 meters and bring things back. So he's just thrilled. So you never know. It's just a bunch of little high school kids got interested in something, and it turned into something. In fact, they even were published. Their findings were published, yeah, in the Maritime Journal. So they did great.
And I think you also mentioned, this was when we talked the other day, that there were some very generous people who were allowing them to use this equipment so that they could go down that deep.
Oh yes, right? It takes a village. It really does. And I'm constantly amazed at, a lot of this equipment is in the thousands of dollars, and we, from the University of Hawaii, in fact, I just picked up today a lighting system that's about $1,500. You don't normally give that to a bunch of 14, 15, 16-year-olds, but they are going to be designing a lighting system, so they're using this as their model, and they're going to take it down, and hopefully we can return it safely. You never do know. It is a risk, but it's been an incredible journey finding people in our community who are very humble and giving. I mean, so many projects we've done. We went to visit the National Weather Service, and before we knew it, I was given a weather balloon for them to experiment with. We used their anemometer. We set up a whole weather station at Iolani and a rain gauge, and that was with Mr. Tanabe, who's now, I guess, the chief meteorologist there. And this was when he was not the chief meteorologist, but just incredible generosity from so many people. And every time. For instance, 5 years ago when we first started this team that goes to the Japan Super Science Fair, I must have sent out maybe 150 emails saying, do you have any interesting projects that maybe this team can work on? And one of the responses was from Atlanta Submarines. They actually took our team free of charge, didn't charge us anything, on many dives, 4 dives, 2 of which were only the team inside their submarines. And they went down off the coast of Oahu, off of Waikiki, and they saw the different types of artificial reefs that people are experimenting with off the coast of Waikiki. Did you know that there are artificial reefs off the coast of Waikiki?
Well, I knew that they did a lot of they do a lot of work there every year to bring the sand in.
That's right, and this is really actually what's one of the reasons why the sea life has come back, because it was a desert, and I don't know if you remember this, maybe you're too young, in the late 80s and 90s it was just sand and everything was just eroding very fast. But now they have concrete artificial reefs. They have these metal ones from Japan that they're experimenting with. There are huge ulua living in there. I hope the fishermen don't hear this program. But there's an incredible amount of life now. It's really very interesting. And so the kids were thrilled. They could tell the submarine operator, please go over here. We want to look at that shark, you know, over here. And Atlantis was just really good to us. And there's always someone in the community who seems to be eager to mentor, and they do it with a very generous heart. We went to Lion Arboretum 2 years ago with the Japanese team, and they were learning how to reforest the terrain that was sort of bare. So they helped plant some plants, and you know, it was great to see the Hawaii kids and the Japanese kids working together.
And,
a lot of opportunities for them.
You know, I've heard about mining. Underwater mining surrounding the islands. Are they interested in any of that, or what the effects could be on the
I think so. What we do every summer is we go to a volcanologist at the University of Hawaii, Dr. Scott Rowland, and he gives us a sort of an introduction to the geological formations of the islands and things like that. And they do this great lab where he has the volcano exploding and things with jello. So we do visit, you know, like the seismology department and things like that. And I think they would be, a lot of the kids want to major in engineering, as you can imagine. So I think that this would definitely be an interest of theirs, and especially, you know, look, we're having a new island growing as we speak right now, Loihi, so I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that. And overall, you know, I think the concern, especially with chemical engineering and mechanical, maybe not mechanical, but civil engineering would be with the mining possibilities around the islands, and especially the environmental impact on it.
Well, that's the thing, is the rare earth metals are what are under here,
everybody's after.
Everyone's after them.
Look at Idaho, the blast with the oil, it's changed the whole financial system of Idaho, and where people are working. People are traveling all the far away from, you know, even the East Coast. They're going to Idaho just because that's where the big boom is now, you know, with their railroad cars being loaded up with oil. So what is the question of the environmental impact on that?
Well, we'll get to that. We got to cut to a quick break, though.
Okay.
I'm your host, Attila Saras. We'll be right back after this break.
Are we going too long?
Aloha, I'm Maria Kashem of Think Tech Hawaii, and I want to tell you about our Think Tech talk shows. If you didn't know it, Think Tech streams video and audio for all of its shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon, and we replay them all night long on Ustream.tv. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on Think Tech. I'm Maria Kashem, and I'll see you there.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel of Think Tech. We have some news for you. In addition to our Think Tech TV show and our Asia in Review show on Olelo 54, as of January 1st, we're adding Community Matters to play also 2 hours a week. Check out thinktechhawaii.com for the specific times of each of these shows. We hope you enjoy all three. Mahalo, I'm Jay Fidel.
We're back, we're live, and you're watching Think Tech. I'm your host, Attila Saras, for Next Big Thing. With us today is Dr. Holly Lindsay, and we're talking about science fairs, and in Hawaii in particular, and what it takes to be successful at them, and how they're changing our young. And speaking of our young, I have 2 young kids. You have 2 not-so-young kids.
Not-so-young kids. My daughter just graduated last year, and now she's working on a doctorate in microbiology, and my other not-so-young kid is a freshman at Iolani School, and he's a passionate scientist also.
Well, yeah. and it seems to me like the role of parents is very important in not just the science fair, but in succeeding academically.
I would say not only parents, but just any adult who is willing to mentor. And I think as a parent, of course, you try to guide your child to different experiences, especially while they're young, so they can try a variety of things. But I think what makes a difference is that wherever you are, whatever life brings to you, you need to take advantage of the place you are at. And for instance, my family moved around. I think we moved 11 times, and my daughter went to 7 different schools before we came to Hawaii, just because of career-driven motives. And the thing was, wherever we moved, we would search out what are the opportunities for a child her age. And I think she got to do an incredible amount of different adventures. We went to dig up fossils at Fossil Butte, Wyoming, and she discovered a Nidea fish, as well as a lot of what she calls fish poop. And I think that really sparked some kind of interest in science in her. She's still digging around. She's right now in the Yellowstone digging in geysers and taking samples. And I think her experience at age 5 actually counted a lot. My son was dragged because of my husband and I are interested in astronomy. He was dragged to many different star parties. We would just look through telescopes. If we were in California, we would go visit the telescopes there. If we were in Arizona, we went up to Kitt Peak to look at the telescopes there. But I remember, I think the defining experience for him was we happened to be driving from Arizona visiting relatives back to Denver, where my husband is from, that area, and we went through the Very Large Array in New Mexico. This is where they filmed that Jodie Foster film, Contact. I don't know if you've seen that, but it was, I didn't realize that all these huge radio dishes are on these railroad tracks that are miles long. When we arrived there in late afternoon, there wasn't a soul around, and suddenly all of them move together, all 32 of them move, and you can just feel the creepiness. Maybe there is a message from outer space. I think that's what fired my son up into astronomy, you know. But I think as a parent, you have to show an excitement over an adventure. And anything can be an adventure. Go to Bishop Museum on the free family day. Costs nothing, but the amount of science packed into this, couple of acre spot, that you can take your kid and just go, wow, this is so exciting. Look at the dead rat collection.
Dead rat, yeah.
Yeah.
And the dead bug collection.
The dead bug collection, that can be a fascinating thing. It's a lot of it's a parent's attitude. And if you want to, spend all your time, whatever you're doing, show a passion for it to your kids. Spend this time with your kids, because before you know it, they won't want to spend time with you. Right?
And so show passion and enthusiasm for things that may be new to them.
Oh, yeah.
That might be science related or
that's right.
Whatever.
I mean, going to the library is still free, knock on wood. And every Monday night I go to the Kaimuki Library and I think, where are all the kids? It's empty. But, I know you have school, but this is the way. The whole world is at your fingertips now, either on the computer or in the written word or something, picture books, whatever.
How do you feel about all the new electronic devices? Because I know if I go out to eat sometimes, I see the 2 parents eating and 2 kids with 2 tablets and they're watching, I don't know, something.
I have mixed feelings, I have to admit. It's very hard to control now what young people are doing with their electronic equipment. Old people too. But I think if you can remember that this is a tool you can use for education, then right there you're making a statement. And whether or not you have to limit it, I do know there's a problem with being addicted to video games on iPads or your computer. And so that's a problem. But on the other hand, if you're researching imperialism, or you're researching, what kind of spheres can exist down at 5,000 meters of depth, there's no resource like that. I mean, you can't spend hours and hours in the library trying to find that answer. Now you can Google everything and find that answer instantaneously. So of course, our kids are just really lucky. In fact, at the University of Arizona, each freshman is offered a chance to look at the Catalina Sky project. They can look for astronomical objects on their computer every single day. And it's amazing what people who are just lay people who don't know anything can find. So I would say it can be both a help and a hindrance.
So for our kids, let's try to expose them to as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get them really excited
Yes.
about what they're doing.
And as a parent, you need to respect that your child is going to be smarter than you, whether or not you want them to be, but respect their questions. When they ask you a question, don't say that's a dumb question. Say, let's think about that, and I don't know the answer. If you don't know the answer, help them learn how to research it. Find out what the possibilities are. Don't say no. Don't say I don't have time. Make the time, because this is what curiosity is about. You don't want to squelch it. Every child loves science when they first start. Isn't that true? Wasn't science your favorite class, like back in first grade if you had it? Or, doing things like pouring chemicals and watching the different colors and everything? Suddenly comes maybe around 8th grade. They're not so interested in it anymore. Why is that? Because...
I thought it was girls, but
Oh no, it goes, this is not a sexist thing at all. It's because I think they don't have a chance to pursue their own question. And I think we need to value that they do ask good questions, and we're not listening as adults. We have their agenda, we need their grades, we need them to finish the book, we need to go through the textbook. As a teacher, I know there's a lot of pressure that way. They have to test, they have to do things, but we don't give them time to develop and to find and make mistakes. Make a lot of mistakes. You and I make mistakes as parents every single day of our lives, don't we? But you know what? It's going to be okay in the long run. And the whole thing that I've noticed as a parent, especially in recent years, is my child, especially my son, likes to compete nationally. He loves competition. But what I hate about competition is that it's all about the winning. And the true winning, which is the learning, is put on the back burner. But for so many people, it means you need to get the prize. But if you knew the whole judging rigmarole, sometimes the judging is very as objective as it can humanly be. But sometimes it's not. And we need to realize and support our child, even if they're not a so-called winner with a prize or a ribbon or whatever, that just doing the project and having a question and having the nerve to talk about it to adults is a really remarkable experience for them, and one that we need to validate and one we need to appreciate. It takes a lot of these kids are shy nerds. It's not easy for them to communicate.
Well, and with that, let's end it. We're
Okay,
going to say it
parents,
on this
mentors.
Valentine's Day.
Yes, volunteer to judge for our science fair, please.
All right, we'll do that.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
to the
you.
show. And of course, if you like the show, feel free to like us on Facebook. I'm your host, Attila Ceres for Next Big Thing, and today, of course, with us was Dr. Holly Lindsay. Thanks so much, and stay tuned for more Think Tech, and stay tuned next Friday for more Next Big Thing. Aloha.